Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 998 of our daily content grind. We're only a couple days away from 4 digits, and that is all because you guys have been supporting me so much, whether it's comments, likes, Patreon contributions, or just sharing my stuff around. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. You're the whole reason I can keep doing this, so thank you guys very much. And we're going to continue doing this today because we are going to be discussing Grimlock toys from over the years. And I've discussed so many of these toys so many times, I feel like I've done this list before, but no, I've double, triple checked my channel. No, I have not tier listed Grimlock toys. And I think I found out one of the reasons why, because the truth is that when we're talking main line, Grimlock doesn't actually have that many toys, because for the longest time, it was kind of like a faux pas to do just Grimlock and ignore the other Dinobots. So they didn't want to do one without doing the others, so Grimlock ended up getting skipped a lot. However, that has changed a lot in the recent years, especially since the appearance in more recent cartoons and movies. So I was left with kind of a choice, a conundrum, if you will. I could either get all of the cheapo and gimmicky Grimlock toys into this list, most of which you know would end up at bargain bin or flea market, or we could discuss some of the more interesting retools and repaints the toys have gotten, rather than sticking to my usual rule of only one mold at a time on this list. I have opted for the latter, because there are some very interesting repaints and retools that we really should discuss here. But as usual, we'll be looking at them and grading them based on my usual tier list of Holy Grail, Premium Price, Retail Release, Bargain Bin, and Flea Market, and we are going to start with we're going to start very big with the Studio Series 86 Grimlock. What can I say? It's Holy Grail tier. The engineering on those figures has been phenomenal. They have been just delightful toys all the way around, and I love the scheme they have of keeping all of them in budget. Did you notice that the first releases had little minifigures that that the later releases did not have? You can see that Hasbro was aware that they would be doing this over the course of years, and the budget would likely shrink. So they pre-planned a little bit of space in the budget so that when that started getting crunched, all they had to do was take that out and they wouldn't have to sacrifice from the toy. And then Swoop at the end was always going to be a little bit smaller, so saving him to last, that makes sure everything stays on level. Brilliant. Brilliant way of doing it. And Grimlock kicking off, that Grimlock is still a beautiful toy. That is still an absolutely great figure. The War for Cybertron Grimlock. Now, I have had a lot of people, when this toy came out, I think everyone was like freaking out because the toy felt so hollow. But that was when the toys were first shrinking and Hasbro didn't exactly know how to handle it yet. So in order to make Grimlock as big as possible, he was very hollowed out. That said, he was a very, very nice Grimlock toy. The articulation was good on it. The look was really, really good. It was just fun. Yes, he had a big old gap in his body when you looked at him in beast mode. But I think the overall balance works out. I think it's still a really, really nice figure. Granted, hollowed out areas on the plastic don't really bother me as much as it does others, so mileage may vary on that judgment. I like it, though. Let's talk about the Pretender Grimlock, or Classic Grimlock, if you got one of the reissues at Kmart or one of the foreign releases. So, this one's fine. It's an interesting little simplification of the original Grimlock toy. Nothing really new to talk about aside from turning the tail into a big gun, so they didn't have to figure out how to engineer that. It's just a very simple, efficient figure, and I think a pretty good for the Pretender Classics. Shell-wise, the shell I think could have been a little bit more intense and designed to match Grimlock. It works, but I think they could have pushed it a little bit farther and make it a little bit more interesting. For his time, I'm going to give him a retail release. Yeah, there's a few better Pretender classics out there. Like, I would put Bumblebee above Grimlock, but it's not a bad figure. It's not bad. Energon Grimlock. Oh, we've talked at length about Energon Grimlock on this channel. No surprise. Yeah, we end up down in the flea market. It's a huge wasted opportunity. It can't combine with any of the other deluxe Autobots in the line, so it's missing out on the line-wide gimmick. That's because it was designed for Universe, not Energon, so there's some excuse. but the proportions on it are awful. It is lacking a lot in the detail department. It does come across very play school in overall look and design. Just compared to a lot of other Energon toys at the time, it was just severely lacking. And it's cool to see Grimlock back, but man, it's a downgrade. It's a big downgrade. Let's talk Robots in Disguise 2015 Grimlock. This is the Warrior class version. Well, when Warrior class first became a thing of just like budget deluxe. And it's not bad for what it is. Now, unlike his other wave mates, he did not come with an accessory necessarily, but then again, I don't remember him having one in the cartoon, so I guess that's fine. And he's just an okay figure. He doesn't excel, he's not terrible, he's not particularly great. I think he's just pretty good. Granted, I'm a little bit biased on the green color scheme. Yes, it's not traditional Grimlock, but they were trying to do different things, so I will respect that. Also very much aimed at a young kid audience, so bright primary colors more than like muted, either bronze based on the movie or the traditional silver. I can understand where that goes. Power of the Primes Grimlock. Now, I'm going to exclude the whole Volcanicus part of this equation, because I think the Volcanicus part of it is not great. The toy itself is just a very average Grimlock. Because it has to break apart and transform into a torso, it does get a little rickety in the chest. That part I don't like. The beast mode started suffering, it was, I think, the first real example of what modern Grimlocks go through, which is just this big, poofy, plump tail, because they don't know how to work in the leg mass without just making it like one big fat tail. Luckily for like Studio Series and everything, they got a lot better about it. But at this time, at a smaller figure, they didn't really know how to make it work. I'm not going to bargain bin him because it's still an okay toy. It's just lacking. It doesn't excel the way it should. Back to RID 15 Grimlock, and this is the retool of the Fall of Cybertron that came out in Japan, and then a redeco eventually came out in America as a multi-pack thing. And this is fantastic. Like, you would not know this was done as a different version of Grimlock. This remold is done so well, so extensively, that it genuinely is like outclassing the original by a lot. It feels more robust because Takara bulked out the toy. It still comes with the original accessories, so it actually has some more play value to it. Just looks really good. Just looks really, really good. I dare say, I'm putting that at the top. Now, it might end up on the lower end of that. I don't care. That's a really good Grimlock toy. Studio Series Grimlock, not 86, just normal one. And again, this is another Grimlock toy I absolutely love. I don't know how they managed to do what they did on the deco of this toy. Like, the deco itself, okay, so the toy itself is very flat blacks and gunmetal grays, so like, the plastic color isn't going to be that much of a wow factor. It is movie accurate, though. It's the painted detail they had all across the figure, like the weathering and texture, that I don't see on like mass release Transformers. And it just looks super, super intense and really, really good. Yeah, and just the function of the toy works really, really well too. I think it's a really nice figure. Moving on, so we have Cyberverse Grimlock. This is the deluxe Cyberverse Grimlock. Again, I left a lot of his gimmicky stuff out of here, but we're going to be talking about this one, ignoring that, well, no, this one wasn't the retool, that comes later. But this one is more the evergreen style for Grimlock, so he's got like big shoulder cannons, like shoulder missile pods and things that I think actually kind of work for Grimlock. It makes sense for him. Again, we're dealing with, kind of like a budget deluxe type deal here. It's okay for what it is. I do like the design. I like that it comes with a crown for his beast mode. That's a hilarious inclusion. I'm going to put him into the retail release. I like the toy well enough. It doesn't wow me, but I like it well enough. This is Activator's Grimlock from Animated. And he actually manages to pull off a pretty good job in both modes. So he does have a little bit of manual transformation that's required. Can't really get around that sometimes. Especially these earlier gimmicky figures. The only real downside to him is the fact that he's very long-armed. Now, the normal animated Grimlock is also long-armed, but this one takes it even like a little bit further. Not intended to make a pun there, but we'll go with it. Again, I think for an activator, it's pretty good. The articulation, there's enough there to keep me interested. The automorph works, and it just represents the character pretty well, which a lot of activators failed to do. Hello, Lockdown. I still see you. Let's talk about Dalmatian Grimlock from Beast Wars. Now, we're going to put aside the fact that this thing is a gold plastic nightmare that will shatter in a moment's notice. Shout out to Sabertron.com, by the way, where I pulled this image, because they managed to get an entire photo shoot out of this toy without anything noticeably breaking. So good on you. I don't know how you managed it. The toy itself, I've never been a fan of the Dalmatian. Like, do a black and white raptor, that's fine, but the Dalmatian stripe, listen to me. The Dalmatian spots just never really worked for me. I mean, I like the mold better than a lot of people, but I don't like that deco on it. I just think it's a missed opportunity. I think they could have done something a little bit more interesting with it. Even if, not even like, oh, this isn't Grimlock colors. Because look, I put a green one in Holy Grail. I can't take the Raptor seriously when I think it should be on the back of a fire truck. Okay, Voyager class animated Grimlock. Now we're talking about the real boy here. So again, it's a nice design. It's very animated. Of course it is. Very smooth and rounded details all the way around. I do like the flame sword gimmick. That's a really cool touch. That's a really, really cool looking accessory. It's a good figure. It's a really, really good figure. I still have one somewhere around here. I haven't messed with it in a minute, so I might have to. I'm rearranging a lot at the moment right now. You might, like, hopefully in the coming weeks, you'll start seeing everything behind my shoulder, like, dramatically shift or even vanish. Yeah, big things happening behind the scenes. I'll let you know when all that happens and when all of it resolves. I'm really looking forward to it. War Within Grimlock. This is the titanium figure. Oh, hang on. I think, yeah, my little list here, actually got this one incorrect. Is it the next one? Yeah, it's the next one. So let's go ahead and we'll just talk about the one it wants me to talk about next, which is the Classics Grimlock. Gotta love OBS. This is kind of why I don't normally try to do the visual example thing, because screw-ups like this happen all the time when I try to get Tier Maker and OBS to work at the same time. They don't like each other. So, Classics Grimlock. I champion this toy a lot. I like how it transforms very asymmetrically. It's a very interesting style of transformation. It's very different from a traditional Grimlock. Kind of. Because when you start to realize that this is a upgrade of Pretender Grimlock, then it becomes more interesting. Because the body of the T-Rex becomes the legs. Because you have the big tail becoming a handheld weapon. You have a lot of homages to that particular version of Grimlock in that toy, which I think elevates it a lot. And yeah, I just think it's a really fun, really solid little Grimlock toy. You know, it's not often that Grimlock gets deluxes. He's usually up in the Voyager scale, so getting a nice desktop-sized one, I think works really, really well. I like him a lot. Now, can we talk about the War Within Titanium? Yes, we can. Thank you, OBS. So, this one is fascinating. So, while it looks good, don't get me wrong, the toy does look good. It does suffer from a rather limited range of articulation because of how the arms are engineered, and the arms themselves are considerably thin and scrawny for this design because they have to tuck inside the treads. Keep in mind, Titanium was not designed or engineered by the typical Hasbro people or even the Takara people. Titanium was an extension of the Micro Machines team. So, they didn't know exactly how to make a Transformer transform. This one, they did a decent job of getting the vehicle mode okay, and the robot mode kind of looks okay, but it suffers from a lot of the things Titaniums usually suffer from. Poor articulation, floppiness, you know, your usual run of just like, these people didn't know exactly what they were doing. I don't know. It's a cool design that I think should have looked way better in toy form. Okay, now let's see what OBS wants me to talk about next. Core Grimlock. Okay, now it's back on track. So, one of the more recent ones. Now, this is one of those that suffered for the Volcanicus combination, which is one reason why I champion against combining Dinobots. Yeah, so he is very limited on articulation. He's got the fat tail thing, because, you know, he is a very small figure and has to form a leg along with it. I still think there's some charm to it, but I don't think it came out all that great. I'm not going to bargain bin it. I'm going to put it up to retail release. But I'm going to put it at the bottom. In context of, like, one of a group of figures, it's fine. But the fact that it's just kind of, like... The fact that it's so much more limited than some of the others in this line, in that set, is upsetting, because it's Grimlock. You know, he should be the one that... He should be the one that's considered the best out of the line. As it is, it's like Slug or Swoop instead. Alright, Earthspark Grimlock. Kind of a... This is an extensive retool of the Cyberverse Grimlock. So, a lot of familiarity to it, but they've done a ton as far as all the new paints and parts. It's mostly new parts, by the way. So, we got the same transformation scheme going, but very slimmed down. Very sleek compared to the other one. That said, I think like it hits some more traditional notes, but I also like some of the details that the Cyberverse one added in. So as far as like I wouldn't call it an improvement, just a shift in direction. In that sense, I'm going to put it right at the same level. I feel like they are very much on par with each other. I wouldn't want to play with one any more than I would the other. So we're going to go with that. Cyber Battalion Grimlock. Now, I wasn't going to include something like Authentics Grimlock because you know it'd end up in flea market, but for what this was, I wanted to consider the Cyber Battalion because it is a budget line, but it was budget when they still had enough budget to make a really nice, affordable figure. This is actually a pretty good Grimlock for everything considered. It's a shame it never ended up in its proper normal color scheme, because the toy is designed to be G1 Grimlock, but Age of Extinction was the new hotness at the time. So bronze he was, and despite how many times they tried to get Cyber Battalions onto shelves, they never went back and gave him a G1 color scheme, which I think is an absolute shame, because I think the toy would do a lot better in silver and gold. As it stands, this is another one that's going to end up somewhere in the retail release level. Yeah, I think for what it is, I actually think I like it better than the Power of the Prime. I mean, admittedly, that's a little bit unfair of me, but I am going with it. Alright. Shattered Glass Grimlock. Now we're talking about a straight-up repaint of the classics, so again, I like the mold a lot. I like the function of the mold. I wouldn't think Trypticon colors on a Grimlock mold would work, but it does. And I'll tell you this, I think it works better on this than the modern one they used from the Studio Series 86 mold. I think this one looks a lot better than the modern one. There's just something about the mold that's so much meaner and suits the Trypticon character so much more. Yeah, it's just a nicer take. It's just a nicer version of the Shattered Glass design. You know, compared to the modern one, I mean. I know it's the original. But it takes advantage of how much meaner that T-Rex mode looks than your average Grimlock, and just like the darker colors pushes that really hard. It's a really, really good design. It's a really good idea. Okay, we're back to talking about Beast Wars Grimlock, but this is the modern one. This is the was it I'm trying to remember if it came out for Kingdom or Buzzworthy. I lose track of this so much now. There's so many lines to keep track of. Regardless, it's a repaint of Kingdom it's a retool of Kingdom Dinobot. Stop trying to go so fast. That said, it is doing something different. It is not attempting the Dalmatian stripe look, and I actually appreciate that. It does look a lot better to me. Of course, the fact that it's not gold also improves it too. It also helps that the mold is really, really nice. I really, really like this mold. It's not a color scheme I actually own. I was content with just the normal Dinobot in my collection. That said, I like the mold a lot, and I think they did way better with the homage colors than the original. No more Dalmatian spots, just black and white Raptor, and I think it looks a lot better. So I will bump it up and give it credit where credit is due. Oh boy. Can I even remember what they called these things? Okay, so it's the Cyberverse toys that had the snap-on armor. The vehicles that, like, cobbled onto your favorite bots to form up armor on them. Grimlock got one. Now, typically, I kind of like this gimmick. There's actually some fun figures to be had with it. The Grimlock is straight-up garbage. This Grimlock is straight-up garbage, which is appropriate because he comes with a garbage truck. For starters, the base Grimlock figure is extremely basic. It's not very fun on its own, especially compared to some of the other figures from this line that were actually nice little independent toys, even before you slapped armor onto them. And then there was just the armor itself, because for whatever reason, this was like the armor that didn't work. Like Optimus and Megatron had armor in this scale, and the engineering on that was fine. But there was just something flawed about the Grimlock where it just didn't want to stay. Like, it didn't want to work properly. So it's not only just, like, not great toy-wise, because it's also, like, Grimlock and a garbage truck. It's not the... I don't know. I don't know what you're going for there. It's not... It's a terrible-looking thing to put in. But, yeah. It was not a fun toy. It's the bottom of the barrel for that entire run. Alright, back to looking at Age of Extinction, and this one is the Leader Class Age of Extinction figure. So, this one, I only recently got to experience, I think, last year when someone sent it to me, which was very, very nice of them. However, the toy itself, I don't think stacks up. I like it on its own, but I don't think it stacks up to a lot of other Grimlocks. The random chrome is weird. Granted, you could there's releases of it that do not have any kind of chrome, so you don't have to worry about that. The release I had was chromed. It's very long-necked in Beast Mode for some reason. Like, the proportions just didn't work out. I think it's okay. I think it's, like, compared to other Grimlocks, I think it is okay. So I'm good putting him, like, smack dab in the middle of the list. There's definitely better ones out there. But not bad for what it was. Just, you know, it doesn't stack up as well. Alright, now we have something interesting. So this is from the Dinobot subset of Armada. And again, we're dealing with the Beast Wars Dinobot mold. We are dealing with him now in proper Dinobot colors, though rearranged. There's a lot more gold to this one, and the red is prominent on the chest. So, he's doing things a little bit differently than your standard Grimlock. And I do like how this one looks overall. So, I had a chance to have the original Armada Dinobots and never pulled the trigger, and now they're like $100 a set or something absurd like that, like something I could never possibly pay. But they are it's a very interesting set of bots. It's a very interesting little subset of bots. Where did I put well, yeah, I put spots down at Bargain Bin. I'm filling up the retail release so much. I feel like I need to put more stuff in the premium price, which I know there's some coming up that I will. But no, I like the mold. I like the toy itself. I think the colors work way better on it. You know what? Because it's my list. I'm looking at what we have to go. Like, there's also some retail releases on the way. I'll put up in the lowest of the premium price point. And that, you know, that's just for me. That's just for me. Masterpiece Grimlock. Now, I had the US version of Masterpiece Grimlock, so I don't know if it was just like the Hasbro run or what, but I felt like this toy was so overrated. Because, well, one, because it didn't really have as much intricate transformation as I would expect from Masterpiece at the time. Even early Masterpiece, I felt like this was a very simple figure. I also didn't like the fact that they tried to work in gimmickry, which I thought took away from the toy itself, especially in the T-Rex mode. They tried to work in like a gimmick that ran through the back of the toy that moved, like you had like a little lever that could move the head left and right. And I think that hurt the toy overall. Like, mine felt rickety. Like, the whole toy, like the whole figure on mine felt rickety. Like, a lot of the stuff did not snap together well. Not enough to come undone, but just like enough to like rattle, which I did not like. And I think I genuinely like don't really like Masterpiece Grimlock. He's one of those where I'm like, I really wish they would do a new one of you. I really wish they would do a new one of you, because you got done dirty the first time, and the engineering's gotten way better since then. Let us move on. Okay, now this is the Voyager class version of Age of Extinction Grimlock, and here's where things are going to get controversial. Here's where things are going to get controversial. I actually really like this toy. I know it has some weirdness to it. Like, it's got the bicep curler arms and all that. But I love the look and the transformation to this toy. Here's where it gets me. It's the beast mode. I really, really like the beast mode on this figure. Like, I like the proportioning to it. I like the curvature. I like how strong it looks as a T-Rex. I think it hits the right notes that maybe the leader class didn't, because it was going for a little bit more movie accuracy, whereas the Voyager seemed to just kind of be doing what worked. Yeah, I like that toy a lot. I like that toy a lot. In fact, it's my list. It's my list. I'll bump it up if I want to. I'll bump it up if I want to. Yeah, I have a fondness for that one. I have a big fondness for that one. Okay, so Pretender Grimlock. I have to include this because this is, very much a G1 Grimlock. It's one of the first toys he ever had, so, of course, and, it's a mainline one. It's a mainline. The Pretender one is a little bit weird because he came with this, like, anti-tank, like, gunnery thing. It doesn't really look like a vehicle. It really is just, like, a rolling turret on treads, and then it flips out into this really big, I believe, shoulder-mounted cannon? I don't know, like, weirdly enough, pictures of this one were a little bit sparse. It's not a great vibe for Grimlock. I don't know. For what it is, it looks really nice. It's very well sculpted for an Action Master. It's that accessory figure that I think lets it down, because I feel like it could have been a little bit more interesting than that. I feel like I feel like the design's a little bit lazy for the accessory. The Alternator Grimlock is another one that might be a little bit divisive. I happen to like this toy. Now, a lot of people were down on this figure when it came out, saying like, okay, I didn't believe people when they said alternators were difficult to transform until this one. I didn't really have much problem transforming this toy. So I tended to like it better than a lot of people. I thought the proportions looked really, really good. I mean, it's weird to see Grimlock as a muscle car, but you know what? I kind of like it. I think as a big Mustang, I think it worked for him. I just like the overall look. I think it, weirdly enough, manages to hit like a weird like feel of his G1 toy without being a Dinobot. I'm not going to put it terribly high up on premium. I'm not going to put it terribly high on premium, but I do like the toy a lot. I will give it its credit. Alright, okay. OBS messed me up again. OBS messed me up again. So now we have to talk about Generation 1 Grimlock. And yeah, G1 Grimlock's good. Like, for his day. Now, for his day, he does have some oddities. Like, a very small... Like, he has a very tiny head. G1 Grimlock has a very tiny head. And some interesting proportions. But it's classic. It's still a good figure. For G1, it's still a really good figure. So let me slot him into premium because it deserves to be up there. All right, who's going to make me talk about now? Now we get to talk about RID Grimlock. Yes, Grimlock in name only because they wanted to keep the trademark alive after Beast Machines. It is decidedly there. Compared to the other ones in this, compared to the other build team members, this one feels a lot more rickety. Even in vehicle mode, even the way the vehicle mode comes together, because of like the treads have to break apart into so many sections to become two independent arms in vehicle mode in the combined mode. This one does feel a little bit weird and rickety, and then you have like really odd limited arms where he has nothing in the shoulders, and you're just relying on ball jointed elbows to get all the motion in. The claw hands also is really weird. This is not a good, it's not a good Grimlock. Even, like, this isn't a good toy. This isn't a good toy, Grimlock or otherwise. I wanted to have a little bit of fun. I threw a goofy one in just so we could have a little bit of fun here at the end. So, yeah, this is a classic Heroes team, the replacement for Rescue Bots that I think should have lived a lot longer than it did, because I think these are a little, I think it's just like quick little desktop transformy toys. These are kind of fun and adorable. So, yeah, the Grimlock is neat. Like, it just is like as a fiddle figure on your desk to just like flip from one mode to the other. I think this is great. It's cute in both modes. I don't find any flaw with this. I don't find any flaw with this figure whatsoever. It is delightful. And then we come to the Nemesis Grimlock repaint. I had to include this one. If I get to include repaints, I'm going to include this one because not only do I really love the figure, the Nemesis colors on this design are kind of brutal looking and it's kind of amazing. Absolutely love this. I feel like we go to like the Nemesis color palette a little bit too easily, but it works on this Grimlock because this Grimlock is designed to look very feral, so giving it an evil color scheme works very, very well. I'll put him bottom of Holy Grail because I love that toy. And that is going to wrap us up. So, as usual with these tier lists, it is just my opinion. I am flying by the seat of my pants when I do these, so don't even put a lot of like faith behind this list. This is really just me, just like having a little bit of fun. But please let me know what your favorite Grimlock toy was. Please tell me how wrong my opinions are, because that's what tier lists are for. And as always, I will see you next time.